If you've been debating picking up an iPad or even upgrading what you currently have, you'll know firsthand that the pricing structure makes picking one a literal nightmare. Pretty much every iPad model overlaps or is crazy close with another in terms of price, and picking out the right one for your needs is actually really tricky. So tricky, in fact, I think it's the most asked question on this channel. Seriously, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or in the comments here on YouTube, I get asked about this all the time, and this video has actually been on my list for the longest time too, so I think it's time that I finally made it. Remember though, this guide is just that, a guide. It's not going to suit everyone, but it should give you a good idea of where to start at least. Anyway, if you like iPad content, I've got loads of that here and lots more coming, so be sure to subscribe. And without any further ado, let's just get right into it. For this video, I'm only going to talk about buying iPads brand new from Apple. As soon as we start talking about pre-owned, older models, sales on other sites, or even refurb units from Apple themselves, everything is going to get even more complicated than it already is, so bear that in mind while watching this video. And of course, be sure to do your own research too. I'm also not recommending anyone go for a cellular unit in this video. For me, tethering to your phone is good enough for iPad use, so I'm just not going to go there. And I do think you'll know if you want that feature or not. I'm also not going to be talking about what accessories you should buy because that's going to be different for everybody, and once again make the pricing even more difficult to get around. Oh, and of course prices and models are all correct at the time of publishing this video too. Okay, to start this video, I always say the same thing, so rather than looking directly at pricing, it's always worth being really honest with yourself about what you plan on doing with a new device before purchasing one. Now that might be really obvious to some of you out there, but not everyone, so I've come up with a really simple category system to help you pick. There's no crossovers, just simple recommendations, and I think this is going to be the best way to remove yourself from the overly tempting thought of spending a little more or less to get a model up or down. I've got three main options for you, so let's look into those. The first category is student casual, and if you fall into this category, I'm going to recommend the standard iPad, or more commonly known as the 9th gen. If you're looking for a more budget-focused device that incorporates the foundation of an iPad, then this might be you. Student casual is for people who want to get classical computing tasks done like email, essay writing, note-taking, internet browsing, content consumption, and some light gaming, all done on one device, which has plenty of power for those tasks. I actually recently reviewed this iPad and was really impressed with it, so that's worth checking out if you want a deeper dive, so I'll make sure I link it below. You're getting some really great fundamentals with this iPad. The battery life should last you all day, no problem. You're getting a headphone jack still, which is great. And you also get support for the first generation Apple Pencil, which despite its age is still an awesome tool for note-taking and drawing on here. This iPad also has the A13 Bionic chip now, which is going to keep it running for a good few years with the latest software and little slow-ups. Honestly, it's a great place to start with an iPad. Storage-wise, if you know you're going to be using it likely for just a few things, or if your school, college, or university course isn't very computer demanding, then the base 64GB of storage is going to be just fine for you. I would say make as much use as possible as cloud storage like Google Drive, but otherwise you should be totally fine here. If you know for a fact though that you're going to be using it a huge amount and have some idea of perhaps editing photos or videos or just working across a huge range of apps, then shooting up to the 256GB version will certainly be worth it. Next up, we have a category I'm calling the Everyday Enthusiast, and if you fall into this category, I'm going to recommend the iPad Air models. In my opinion, this is the sweet spot for most people who want to get into iPads with the idea of making use of them for more than just simple computing tasks and content consumption. The iPad Airs are really powerful and totally capable computers. You're getting a larger screen size at 10.9 inches, the A14 chip inside is still crazy fast to this day, and the updated design means you're getting that USB-C port, which is way better than the Lightning one, and the whole host of iPad accessories, which allows you to tailor this iPad to your specific use. The Air models can be used for practically everything you'd ever want an iPad for. Classical computing tasks are a breeze for this model, and more demanding things like high-intensity gaming or photo and video editing are easy and fluid for this A14 chip that's inside. Most notably though, you're getting support for the Apple Pencil 2nd generation and the Apple Magic Keyboard, which are the two accessories that can turn this iPad into a fully fledged computer in its own right. I still don't buy into iPads as laptop replacements, but the Air models can get very close to that if you want them to. I also think the second generation pencil is a worthy upgrade if you're looking to get more into digital art. It's noticeably better than the first gen and has a much more elegant way of charging to boot. On top of all this, I've personally got the M1 iPad Pro 12.9 inch model, and I've not noticed a clear difference between the two. That could be thanks to iPad OS catching up to the power of the M1 chip, but otherwise the Air models and the Pros feel completely the same when it comes to day-to-day tasks, so don't feel like you're missing out on power here, because you're really not. Again, when it comes to storage, 64GB might be enough if you're just planning on using this lightly, but jumping to 256GB is really going to be worth it, and if you can swallow that painful price pill and ignore how close it brings you to the cost of a Pro model, it's going to be worth it for sure. In my opinion, the Air models offer the most iPad you can get for the money, and I really do recommend them highly. Let's quickly talk about the iPad mini as well, and if I had to give this category a name, I'd say specialist, because the mini is such a specific variant. I think you'll know whether you want it or not. In my personal opinion, the iPad Air is still small enough to take with you everywhere, and the bigger screen size of it makes it a more usable piece of technology. But the mini is fantastic if you've got a really specific use case in mind. And I know for some jobs they're particularly useful, like a pilot, but otherwise I'm pretty much always going to recommend going for an Air over it. Even with the A15 chip inside here, which is one step above the Air, the difference in my usage is very minimal, which could be due to the thermals and sizing of this one. So you're honestly not missing out on anything. I also found the mini was particularly apt for gaming, so if that's something that interests you, then this might be worth a look in, but I really don't think you should get an iPad if you're looking for a dedicated gaming device. There's much better options out there. Lastly, we have the creator professional category. If you know you want to make things or potentially replace a great deal of computing, or if you just love having the very best of an iPad, then this might be for you. I'm suggesting this time to look at the M1 iPad Pro models alone. While the Air models are also totally capable of most of what these iPads can do, the extras you get here are going to make a difference, as you might be using the iPad on a more frequent basis or for more taxing work. The M1 chip, coupled with either 8 or 16GB of RAM inside these iPads, provides some serious power and headroom. It feels like only a few apps at the moment are taking advantage of it, and even the ones that don't seem to move that bit faster than the Air and Mini models. To put things simply, these iPads are going to be utterly excellent for all types of work you can throw at it, and it's going to stay relevant for years with the power of that M1 chip. The Pros also bring the wonderful 120Hz ProMotion display to the iPad, which is really fantastic and makes the whole experience of using an iPad really satisfying. That also builds into the Apple Pencil. If you're going to draw, note take, or anything else that's pencil heavy, the 120Hz screen really makes it feel as close as you can get to writing on paper, and it's a noticeable step up from the iPad Air models. You're also getting that USB-C slot, but this time it's Thunderbolt enabled, so transfer times for external storage, docks, and monitors are much faster. And of course, you also get access to the Apple Magic Keyboard too. The bigger conversation might be in the size of the iPad to go with the Pro models. You have either the 11-inch or the 12.9-inch, and to make that even trickier, the 12.9-inch model has the wonderful Pro XDR mini LED display that makes it stand out that bit more. I've used both, and while I do really love the XDR display on the 12.9-inch, I don't think it's critical to have unless you're planning on doing some intense photo or videography work, or maybe you're looking to use the iPad as an external monitor with sidecar, or maybe you just want that bigger size. The Pro models have a great starting point of 128GB of storage too, which I honestly wish they all started at, but hey. And I actually think that's going to be a decent amount for most people, but if you're a little worried, jumping up to 256GB of storage is £100 more, and I think that's money well spent. If you need more than that, then prices start flying up really quickly, so I do think 256GB with external storage is possibly the right way to go. So that's pretty much where my recommendations lie. However, I think it's only fair to tell you where I would put my money if I was going to start again with iPads. And I'm actually in a really strange boat because I make content about iPads and Apple products, and having a range of models along with the latest and greatest is all part of what I do. So I do lean towards the 12.9-inch mini LED version. However, let's for 1 second imagine I don't. Then I would personally shoot for the iPad Pro 11-inch with 256GB of storage, I'd skip on the keyboard as I'm not huge on them for iPads, and I would definitely grab the pencil for sure. Okay, so that wraps up this video. I hope it made things a little more clear on where you should look if you're thinking of grabbing an iPad. Of course, if you have anything to add, then pop it in the comments below. I always like to hear your opinions. And if you could pop a like on the way out, that would be massive, and I will see you all in the next one.